It's time for Inside the Paranormal Virginia, with live talk and actual video of paranormal activity, ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs. Now join creator and host, John Salas.
Welcome to Inside the Paranormal Virginia. I'm your host, John Salas. Thanks for tuning in. Last week on the show, we talked about paranormal activity, paranormal phenomena, and ghosts. This week's topic is an exciting topic and an interesting topic, and I love this. We're going to be talking about Sasquatch Bigfoot. My guest tonight is Billy Willard. He is a Bigfoot researcher, and he's also the director of Sasquatch Watch of Virginia. Welcome to the show, Billy.
Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate you letting me join you.
Billy, I've been waiting to have a show about Bigfoot since I thought about this show. It's an interesting topic. There's a lot of similarities between paranormal activity, Bigfoot, UFOs. How long have you been into this?
Well, I started the group in 2005, so it's been a little over a decade.
Over a decade. What got you into Bigfoot research or the subject of Bigfoot?
Well, I've always had an interest in the subject ever since I was 8 years old and I first saw the movie Legend of Boggy Creek. So I've always had an interest in it. But what really got me back re-involved as I got a little older was my kids. My kids had started a Bigfoot forum on the internet, and it kind of re-interested me, and I blame them. I have to give them the blame.
So your kids got you into it. So this group, the Sasquatch Watch of Virginia, that's your organization.
Correct.
What does the group basically do? Is it just investigating Bigfoots?
Yes, that's what we do. What we do is we have a hotline on the website, which is sasquatchwatch.org. So folks can call into the hotline if they have a sighting. We also have they can go on the website also to report the sighting. And what we do is we have researchers all over the state of Virginia that can respond, to a sighting area, typically within 24 hours.
You know, what's interesting to me is that, most people think of Bigfoot being up in the Northwest and being in Canada. I didn't know that the Bigfoot sightings have been all over the country, right? In every state, there's been Bigfoot sightings, right?
As far as I know, every state except for Hawaii.
Except for Hawaii. And it's actually every continent there's been Bigfoot sightings, right?
Oh, definitely.
And it goes back, what, 400 or 500 or more?
Oh, it goes back many, many years.
All right, so even I know that Native Americans there's depictions of Bigfoot in caves from Native Americans that go back 300 or 400 years, and it just looks like the drawings of today of Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, and again, I believe that that's probably some of the best evidence out there. The fact that we've got Native American drawings of something that appears to be ape-like. Well, we all know that back in the day, they had never seen an ape, supposedly had never seen an ape because, as far as we knew, apes only existed over in Asia and in that area. So how would they have known what to draw on these
Right,
caves?
So they weren't copying anything that they saw.
Right, exactly.
Right. Okay, we have a tape, a film, a clip of the most famous Bigfoot video that was taken in 1967 by Roger Patterson, and he had another friend with him, right?
Yeah, that was Bob Gimlin.
Bob Gimlin. Now, I think there's been some controversy about the video because some people think that, it was forged. And they said, some people said that, they took a closer look and this was forged. But as far as you're concerned, this is authentic, right?
I believe so. And I've had personal conversations with Bob Gimlin. Obviously, as everyone knows, Roger Patterson passed away. Bob Gimlin has visited here on the East Coast at a few conferences. I've had visits with him up in Washington State as well. And talking to the man, probably one of the most honest guys you'll ever talk to. So I have no reason at all to believe he didn't see what he saw.
Okay, so set it up for us as far as we're going to see the clip in a minute, but set it up how this clip came and what happened. Right.
Well, Roger and Bob were riding horseback through the wilderness. They were filming. They were looking for evidence. And as they come upon this creature along this sandbar along the creek, of course, they get thrown from the horse. And that's the reason why the first part of the film is shaky, because Roger Patterson is trying to run over and get himself stabilized along a log so that he can film this creature. So that's the reason you have the shakiness in the film. And then he stabilizes himself, and of course he films the creature as it walks across the sandbar. And actually there's quite a bit of footage that people are unaware of. There's actually footage of the creature walking away and up into the woodline.
Okay, well, we're going to look at that right now. If we could play the Roger Patterson Bigfoot. This is original footage.
Yeah, and as you can see how it was shaky. He was trying to get himself stabilized as he saw it.
Now, he kind of turns and looks at them. It doesn't look like he's in a hurry. He's just strolling through the woods.
Another interesting part of that, you know, as you really examine the film, and there's been several people that have examined this film footage. Bill Munns is one of the most recent researchers looking at this. But if you notice, that creature has breasts. That is a female creature.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the arguments that you could use is, if someone was going to hoax someone in a suit, would they really think to use a creature with breasts?
Right, that would be really highly imaginative to say, hey, we're going to make it a female and we're going to enhance it like that. Now, I haven't had any experiences as far as hunting or investigating Bigfoot. What I can tell you is that in 2003, I just happened to be driving through Northern California, and I was going through a small little town, and there was a parade going on. Mm-hmm. And I saw that they had a lot of Bigfoot kind of statues, and everything was Bigfoot. And I stopped, and it was in Weaverville, California, Northern California. And I said, what is this? A Bigfoot parade. And it was Labor Day weekend. So I pulled over, and there were some food stands there. So I figured I'd get myself something to eat. And I got a sausage sandwich, and I asked the guy a couple questions. And he said, look, if you really want to know about Bigfoot, see that older lady sitting over there on the bench? He says she's the editor of the Weaverville newspaper. She's been here for like 40 years. She could tell you all kind of stuff about Bigfoot. So I went over, introduced myself to her. Sweetest, nicest lady. She asked me to sit down. Her and I had a long conversation, over an hour, and she told me all these countless stories about Bigfoot. And at the very end of our conversation, I said to her, did you ever have an experience with Bigfoot? She said, no. I said, well, why do you believe that there really is a Bigfoot? And her answer was that these people that live here are the salt of the earth. They're my friends. They're my neighbors. So I go to church with them. Many of them that had encounters, and they told me, I don't believe that they were making up a story. They didn't want their name in a newspaper. They had no reason to make up a story. She said, so I believe these people. She said, I believe them more than I do films and more than cameras. She actually said she knew Roger Patterson, mm-hmm. and that he was an honest man. So that was the only experience I ever had. I just thought I just happened to come across her. She was the nicest lady, and she was very sincere in her story about Bigfoot. I love this, and as a matter of fact, she said it was only about 2 or 3 miles from Weaverville where this famous film was taken. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that over the years there have been lots of people that have come up with evidence, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and there's still a lot of naysayers.
There is. There's a lot. There's a lot of hoaxing that does go on. You know, the most recent was the Georgia hoax. That was perpetrated, and I believe that was 2008, I believe, where there was some film footage of a creature that was in a freezer, and they had packed it in ice, and what it ended up being, of course, was a Halloween costume that was stuffed with possum guts.
So, you know, that takes away from a lot of credibility when you have that happen. Things like, you know, people making up. I think it's the same way with crop circles, the same way with paranormal. I mean, and then, you know, this is a mystery. I mean, this animal is an elusive animal, right?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely elusive. I think it's a rarity to have a sighting, which is why we don't have. And I believe that there's a lot more sightings out there that's being reported. You know, because I believe that a lot of people would rather keep something like this quiet, especially people, you know, that have, you know, businesses or police officers. You know, they don't want to go around talking about, hey, I had a sighting of this creature, because they don't want to be coined as being crazy.
Right. As far as Virginia goes, though, how many sightings do you think in Virginia? I mean, And I didn't even know that Virginia had Bigfoot sightings.
To be honest, you could probably count maybe 100, a little over 100 sightings, and that's over several years.
Right.
Last year, our group probably only brought in about 2 sightings, but I've been in this, like I say, for over a decade, and you do have years where things seem to be really slow. Almost like you'll have a year or two of virtually no sightings, and then all of a sudden you'll have a dozen.
Right.
So it does seem to happen in phases.
What do you think the scientific community, how do you think they feel? What do you think the scientific community feels about Bigfoot?
The majority of the scientific community think it's a joke. But we do have a few scientists out there that do believe that there's something to this. Of course, one of the most probably outspoken people in the scientific community would be Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum from Idaho State University. He has done a lot of research even on this film. He's got the footprint cast of that creature there. A lot of people don't know, but there were several casts taken of that trackway from that creature. And Dr. Meldrum has researched all of them. You can really get into his book. He's wrote many books that really talk about it because his specialty is primate locomotion. So he can look at a footprint cast and give you all kinds of information about it.
Now, as far as I know, with the Patterson film, Patterson never recanted till his. What I read was that on his dying deathbed, he said it wasn't a hoax, it was real. I saw this creature. Yeah,
he never recanted the story. And Bob Gimlin, like I say, I've talked to Bob Gimlin. He was there as well, and he's the most believable person you'll talk to.
Now I'd like to get into this. What has been your experience with Bigfoot?
I guess my very first experience was in 2005. We were at a site. We had gotten a call to a group that I used to be in called NESRA, which stands for the Northeastern Sasquatch Researchers Association. And they had gotten in a call from a lady who had a sighting in Varina, Virginia. Now that's right outside of Richmond, not far from, believe it or not, the Richmond International Airport. A lot of the land out there is a lot of wooded swampland, and there's a lot of old, there's cornfields, soybean fields, a lot of crops being grown out there. And this lady was actually doing an archaeological study on a piece of property that was getting ready to be developed. She was trying to find out, because there's Native American artifacts that have been found in the area. So she was there doing a study to make sure that development was going to be okay. Well, she had a sighting of a creature. As she was driving down the private road, she saw a creature kneel down next to a creek, putting its hand in the water, cupping the water, and drinking the water. She had 2 other witnesses with her, and she said it stood up, and at that point she drove on past because she didn't know what to expect. She went down there, waited 5 minutes, turned around and came back, and the creature was still there, and it got up and walked off. Now, she described smelling an odor similar to a fish hatchery, kind of like it would, when you're filleting fish.
Right.
That's how she described it. She said it was a full moon that night, very bright, so she got a really good look at it, and then of course she drove away. Now, my experience with that was we went and did research there, and I've got 3 sons. It was me, a gentleman by the name of Tom. We had the eyewitness was there, and I had all 3 of my sons at the site. We placed everybody in strategic areas as we were researching the area. We were looking for evidence, footprints, hair snagged on twigs, whatever.
Right.
While we were there, we had all split up. 2 of my kids were over in the cornfield on the edge of the woods. I instructed them, don't enter the woods, stay along the edge of the wood. And it wasn't long, probably 20 minutes in or so, I started getting messages. We had the next telephones with the direct connects, and they started connecting to me and saying, we see something. And the way they described it, they said it was about 7.5 feet tall, said it was silver, the grayish silver colored hair, and said it was just simply standing there just staring at
Now,
him.
these are your children, your
Two
two
of my
boys.
sons.
How old were your boys at the time?
At the time, I believe one was, 14, and the other one was 15.
We're going to have to take a commercial break.
Okay.
We will be right back. He's going to finish his story about his Bigfoot encounters, and we're also going to have some physical evidence that Billy brought with him to show you about Bigfoot. Don't go away. The best part of the show is back. We'll be right back.
It's the family again. Ever.
I'm not talking about that family.
Coming in March, it's the Sweet 16.
It's not basketball. Welcome to the Simplicity family. The Sweet 16. 16 of the best vacuums you've ever seen. Vacuums that fit your cleaning needs. Only at Haley's Vac.
Stop by and meet the family man.
And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Who is the beast, and what is his mark?
We invite you to come and study the book of Revelation with us Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. at the Church of Christ at 823 Starling Avenue, Martinsville, Virginia.
Colors on Parade. Did you know that Colors on Parade is a mobile paint and dent repair company? Most repairs can be completed in one day at your location and usually below your insurance deductible, allowing you to keep your premiums low. Colors on Parade provides many repairs, including touch-up, clear coat scratch removal, panel and bumper repairs, and refinishing. We can match your vehicle's factory paint, blending the repair so the damaged area disappears. Call Colors on Parade for convenient service and a quality repair. Call or visit colorsva.com.
Hi there. Make sure that you come out to Barker's Auto Salvage beginning the month of April. All month long, we're doing 40% off. Yes, 40% off. Come out and help us celebrate our 40 years in business. There will be specials all month long. That is a secret at the moment. We're going to have t-shirts giveaway, different prizes, hats, and so forth. So please come out and help us celebrate our milestone.
Remember, you don't need the newspaper to see what movies and showtimes are playing here at Hollywood Cinema. You only need to call 656-3456. 656-3456. That's 656-FILM. We'll see you up here at the movies.
Summertime's here and you're going to do a lot of traveling, you need the Auto Tech check. Don't let your brakes have you coming to a stop. You need the Auto Tech check. Don't let your belt have you broken down at the beach. Get the Auto Tech check. Don't let a bad tire ruin your vacation. Get the Auto Tech check. Don't let some strange noise cause you to break down on your trip. Get the Auto Tech check. Why should you come to Auto Tech? For our service, knowledge, and special hour warranty. 5 years, 60,000 miles. Come see us at Auto Tech. Don't settle for any check. You need the Auto Tech check.
It's time for Tarzan and I to trade in the vine for something more functional and affordable. I trust you have suitable means, Mr. Nelson.
Well, but Tarzan like Vine. Vine, here at GR Chevrolet, we can put you in this brand new Silverado 4-wheel drive. At GR Chevrolet, you can buy this brand new Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive. Ranks #1 in government safety ratings. Here at GR Chevrolet, we make buying cars fun. Tarzan the Musical, April 21st through May 1st.
He doesn't.
He does.
He doesn't.
He does. Kerchak, Turk needs his own car. One less monkey in the barrel.
No, he doesn't. Collar, it's not safe.
It's safer than them vines. What you need is this 2016 Kia Optima. 5-star safety rating and a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Check us out online, autosbynelson.com. Tarzan the Musical, April 21st through May 1st.
I'm Dare Kennett.
I'm Jimmy Kennett.
And this is Sweetie. If you want a reliable car, see Jimmy or Dare Kennett at Kennett Used Cars.
Use your tax refund as a down payment.
We finance good credit, bad credit, no credit. If you have a full-time job, you are approved. and you will ride. If you draw disability or Social Security, we can help you. See us at 6232 Virginia Avenue, Bassett, Virginia, 276-629-4499. I'm Dare Kenny, and I dare you to get a better deal anywhere else.
Welcome back. You're inside the paranormal. We are with Billy Willard. He is the director of Sasquatch Watch of Virginia. He's a Bigfoot researcher. Right before the break, Billy was talking about his experience with Bigfoot. He was with his two boys. Go ahead, Billy.
Yeah, so basically what had happened was they were having this sighting. They had called me on the phone. So one of the guys that was with me had went out of the wood line to go up and meet up with them to see what was going on. As he was leaving, and this guy's a professional geologist, as he was leaving, he started hearing what he described as chimp-like noises coming from 3 different directions as he was going out of the woods, which is pretty odd. But as he was leaving, I had gotten a call, and they said it just took off. It just took off down the hill, which obviously was in my direction. So I saw something out of my right vision, my peripheral vision, and it was moving at a really high rate of speed. And for whatever reason, for some odd reason, I had a weird feeling come over me and literally became disoriented, almost to the point where I didn't remember how I got where I was at. It was the first time I'd ever felt anything like that. And I literally laid down on the ground in a fetal position. I was feeling really ill. And it took me about 5 minutes to get my bearings back together and actually get back out of the woods. It was really strange.
Okay, so you thought you saw something,
yep.
You did, and then you had this physical feeling. Now, I've heard similar stories when it comes to UFOs, and there actually is some kind of correlation between UFOs and Bigfoot. Is that right?
Yeah, if you talk to Stan Gordon, him and I have had discussions about, he's taken several sighting reports that actually involve someone having a Bigfoot sighting as well as a UFO sighting, all kind of at the same time. So there are a lot of stories out there like that, particularly up in Pennsylvania.
Okay, when it comes to the physical aspect of Bigfoot, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, I said, you want me to ask a question to Billy? He said, yeah, ask him if he thinks there's a possibility that Bigfoot could be a phantom, sort of like comes in and out of a different dimensional. It has physical properties, just like we do, maybe not quite like we do, and it comes in and out of our dimension, forages for food, and goes back into its dimension, just like aliens may do that. And that's what some people think. What do you think about that theory?
That is simply a theory that I don't agree with. And the main reason is because I believe that we have to look at this from as much of a common sense standpoint as possible. I think a lot of times the simplest answer is the answer. So in my belief, and I've always believed this, is that Bigfoot is nothing more than an undiscovered North American primate.
Now, you have brought with you a piece of physical evidence that supports your claims of an animal like this.
Correct.
Okay, so why don't you show the viewers what you brought with you?
This is a footprint cast that we collected in an area in Culpeper County back in 2006. One thing that we have to keep in mind as you're looking at this picture on the screen is this portion right here was actually a rock that dislodged. So in essence, this thing would actually come down straight to a more narrow heel. The bad thing about the soil in the state of Virginia, as you can actually probably notice, is you'll see a lot of rocky shale in here. The ground and the soil, the only reason we took this cast was because, or that this print showed up, is because at that particular time, we believe that this creature had stepped out into this power line cut right after a rain. And that was the only reason that these impressions showed up. We actually found a series of 3 of these, and they were spread apart at about a 4-foot interval. And then, of course, we casted it, and you can't really make out toes or anything like that, which makes it really hard to examine. You know, this is not an ideal cast if Dr. Jeff Meldrum wanted to check it out. You know, he's looking for something that's got more definition to it, but it was definitely an interesting find because we believe that Bigfoot will hunt deer, particularly around power line cuts, and we believe that that's probably what happened here is this creature had stepped out of the wood line into an area that just happened to be a nice bare area that actually made impressions. So.
Okay, based on that footprint, how big do you think that animal would be?
Based on this footprint, I would say that this animal was probably somewhere around 7 to 8 feet tall. It's a 15-inch long print, and at the base is 8.5 inches wide.
And most sightings of Bigfoot in the different parts of the country have all said, most of the sightings say that this animal is really tall, right?
Yeah, really tall. Typically around this area, they range anywhere from 6 to 7 feet. On the Pacific Northwest, in that area, we've heard of sizes up to 9 to 10 feet.
And they've also seen, this is what's been reported, that they've seen Bigfoot with siblings or with little baby Bigfoot.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, there's been some recent sightings in West Virginia, as a matter of fact. This happened probably about 4 or 5 years ago. The report's actually on the BFRO site, which is the Bigfoot, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. Of a couple that was stopped at a rest area in West Virginia, a very rural area, and they actually had a sighting of what they said looked like 2 adult creatures along with a smaller creature that they observed right as the sun was setting up on the top of a hill.
Do you think they're dangerous?
I don't think so. But
because there's been accounts,
there
right?
Has,
there been accounts of it being harmful to people, right?
There has, but usually it's when something has been instigated. For example, the famous story of Ape Canyon, where you had some miners that had taken a shot at one. And then, of course, later that evening, they were staying in a cabin which was bombarded by boulders coming off the top of the mountain. So, again, it's almost like something being instigated. I've never felt threatened anytime I've been out doing research, or if I've had some type of a sighting, which could be a glimpse of something. I've never had a fear. Right. But whatever came over me that one day that I described, that wasn't really a fear. I don't know what it was. I've never had that feeling ever before or ever again.
So that was just that one time. I know that there's some Native American accounts of that the Bigfoot could be very helpful in ways to villages, right? I mean, I read an account where, he would keep the grizzly away and actually help. And then there were other accounts of Bigfoot actually going into Native American communities, stealing kids.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yes, there are stories. Particularly around the Pacific Northwest, a lot of those stories are told, and I tell you, there's a lady by the name of Kathy Strain that lives over on the Pacific Northwest, and she has some great stories and a great book about some of those stories about the Native Americans. So.
Right. Not only did they take kids, but off camera we talked a little bit about this. Is that do Bigfoot, you think, have DNA, human DNA in them?
That is a hard question to answer. Again, I believe it's a North American primate. I'm not going to rule that out, though. There are stories that have been shared that some people believe that these creatures are a little bit more than just a primate. And until we have some kind of proof, which unfortunately, as much as we hate to hear it, will probably take a body, we simply don't know.
Right, it's just going to be a mystery.
Right.
Now, you have brought some evidence, some photos, and some evidence that you're going to share with us, and we're going to put those up now, and Billy's going to go over some of this evidence.
Yeah, now this first picture here is, I just brought this photo because I wanted to show everyone. This is actually where my 2 boys had their sighting. If you look in that far corner where the trees are, if you look kind of in the right top corner, that is actually the area where they saw the creature. So that's really the only reason I wanted to bring this. But as you can see these paths, you can tell that this is like a field. And that path there, we found a lot of those pathways that were worn down, and they were, bigger than the normal deer trail. They actually looked like something large just traveling the area. So that's that photo. This is actually the footprint of the cast that I showed earlier. It's a 15-inch long track, and that's how I was explaining. As you look at that photo, you can see there's a lot of rock there, clay, shale, and that's what makes it so difficult to get prints anywhere really in the state of Virginia. So that's before I casted the print. I believe if you go to the next photo, that's the print, of course, after we casted it. And as I explained, that bottom right heel area there, that bulge there, as we were actually trying to clean out the impression area, we accidentally dislodged a large rock, which is what explains that bulge right there. This is a trackway that was found in the same area. And all this is in the Culpeper County, Virginia area. And you can see how far apart the spacing is. I've got the end of the tape at the top there toward the middle of the photo is where the other print was. So we figure this creature was probably running for whatever reason. And there is a huge, it's 11 feet.
Wow, that's impressive.
And that's a wet area. There was no other impressions between that one and the other. That's 11-foot stride there. Again, we found these prints along with deer. You can see some deer tracks in there too. And again, this is a dried out duck pond, and we found these large impressions. And these particular impressions were only about 8 feet apart. But again, you're talking about a huge stride. I don't think this animal was walking. I think it was at least at a good little pace to have that kind of a stretch on it. Again, this is another shot. We had found a total of 6 footprints in that trackway. And interestingly, they were about the same size as the cast that I have here. They were 15 inches in length, 7 inches wide. So again, and this is being the same area, we truly do believe it was the same creature. Now this is interesting. I'm not the type of person that likes to talk about stick structures because I believe a lot of them can be ruled out as a natural phenomenon caused by weather and that kind of thing, but that wasn't created by weather. Now that's not to say that someone didn't go out there and do that, but this wasn't found along the trail. We were actually, this picture comes from Pennsylvania in an area called Beaver Creek. And we happened to stumble across this structure when we were just walking near a creek side. I had actually seen this. This is actually on the top crest of a hill. Everyone else was along the creek, and for whatever reason, I don't even know why, I wanted to climb to the top of that hill, and that's what I found. And I called everybody. I said, "You guys need to come and see this."
Well, could have just been left by hunters? Could some hunters could have been there?
Anything's possible. It was just, it's very elaborate. When you examine it really close, you can see that limbs are interwoven under other limbs, and others are stacked, and it's just very interesting the way that whole thing was set up. That's probably one of the most elaborate ones I've ever found.
Well, it comes to the point about the intelligence of the creature. Right. How intelligent do you think this creature is?
Well, I believe it's more intelligent than the normal primates that we're aware of.
So it's more intelligent than a chimp or an orangutan or a gorilla.
More than likely, yes.
Right. Now, do you think that it has a language?
Well, there's a lot of people that think it does have a language. Mr. Ron Moorhead, it's also over on the Pacific Northwest, has audio recordings. A lot of people know them. They're called the Sierra Sounds. And Scott Nelson, who is a naval linguist, has listened to those audio recordings, and he believes it to be a language.
So it's intelligent enough that it could communicate. Have you ever heard the Sasquatch? The show that I watch every once in a while is that Searching Bigfoot, and sometimes they'll play the little scream. And I try to get my wife to do it, and she doesn't want to do it. Can you please do that for me, honey? And she doesn't want to do it. Have you ever heard it?
I have not heard that scream. We have heard some sounds in the woods, and one thing I always like to point out, and we kind of talked about this earlier, is a lot of people will misidentify normal wildlife activity. For example, there's a lot of sighting reports that come into us for people hearing vocalizations that sound like a woman screaming. 9 times out of 10, that's a red fox. If you go on YouTube and you pull up some red fox videos on there, red fox sounds like a woman screaming. So there's some normal wildlife out there that can easily be mistaken as Bigfoot vocalizations.
Okay, as far as investigations now, when you investigate and you go to this area, explain to the viewers, like, what are some of the techniques that you use to try to gather evidence to support the claims of Bigfoot?
What we do when we go to a site is we're very nonchalant. So we will go out and just hike an area in the daytime, look for some physical evidence, whether that be footprints or hair or whatever. We're looking for any kind of physical evidence. We particularly like to go out on sites where someone has had a sighting, and we'll set up nighttime surveillance. And in my opinion, nighttime surveillance is probably going to be the most successful because these things seem to be more active. They seem to be nocturnal.
So you think they're nocturnal?
I think they're nocturnal. We have, we've recorded vocalizations that, are not typical wildlife sounds. And we've found a lot of footprints, and I've got some photos.
Have you ever found any droppings?
No, not anything that I would consider Sasquatch.
I don't think that would be too appealing, because there's some, going around looking for some critter's poop, what I mean?
Right.
Okay. Can we get back to some of the evidence? Okay.
Yeah, let me explain this one. We did an experiment on a site where someone had a sighting, and what this is, a lot of people find these and describe them as rock stacks. So what we did, this was actually built by us as an experiment. We had trail cameras in the area, and what we did was we stacked up a stack of rocks and we put a penny right on the top. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see what we did is we stack them up, we put a penny on the top. Now, we went back out to the site a few weeks later, and then look at the next slide. We found the penny down above the second base rock in the stack. It had been removed from the top and put it on that second rock.
Any chance anyone else was out there?
All right, here's the problem. We had 2 trail cameras focused on this rock stack, and the pictures that were taken by that trail camera were black. There was no photo, no exposure. Everything else, we caught deer out there. We've got skunks on the everything else. But whatever happened during that time of that rock stack, we got no exposure on that film.
That's kind of interesting that happened. That's why I was talking to you earlier about the dimensional thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, is it a possibility that it was the camera was unable to pick up what was there?
Anything's possible, but again, we can't rule out human involvement. We can't rule out somebody coming and throwing a black drape or cloth over the camera and doing it.
And that's the most difficult part of the investigations with the paranormal, along with, say, the aliens. You can't recreate it.
Right.
And I just think it's so difficult. And then the evidence that you do gather, it's like, well, you got to take it as face value. And then if you weren't there to actually physically see it, you have to. Well, this is what happened.
Right. Exactly. This is a footprint that we have found on an expedition site where we actually had gotten together, and this does not happen often, trust me, and I'm sure this is true of the ghost field as well as the UFO field. It is hard to get groups to come together and work together.
That's why I like to do it with just one person. I like to do it with Hollywood. My buddy Barry Koger. It's like because it just makes it so much easier. Because when like you said, when you get groups, everybody wants to go in their own direction. Everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody thinks they could get the best evidence. Everybody wants to do that. So it's the same. I think it's the same with all this.
Anyway, on this particular expedition, we had brought several Bigfoot groups together from all along all the way from central part of the U.S. up in the far north. We had pulled a group, and everyone got along. There were 30 researchers on one site. And late one evening, we had someone had seen something on the other side of a pond, and the lady went over there. That's what she found. And some folks had thermal imagers, and there was something on the thermal image. And then when they went over and checked it, they found these footprints.
Okay, on the East Coast, which state on this Coast?
This was in Virginia.
Yeah, well, which state has the most sightings?
On the East Coast?
Yeah, on this part of the country.
I would say it's a throw up between the state of New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. They're probably the most active states on the East.
Do you have any idea of why they're the most active?
I don't. I really don't know. I don't know if there's an answer for that. I don't know if it's just there's more people out hiking to have sightings.
Do you think it has to do with the terrain and with the amount of deer and vegetation? And do you think that they eat more than deer? Like, do they eat vegetables or trees? And do they eat all that? They're herbivores? You think they're like bears?
No,
bears eat everything.
Yeah, I think they're omnivores. I think they're opportunists. So they'll eat anything from vegetation to meat. Just like us.
Well, some of the Native Americans said they used to eat their kids. They would eat their kids. You know? Okay. We got some more photos to show. There you go.
Yeah, this is a lady on a piece of private property over in Spotsylvania County where she had had a sighting. Her and her husband and her granddaughter had a sighting. And, we had spoke to her, and she had decided to do several experiments on her own. And she had just, it was something that she didn't want to eat. So
right.
She just put it out there, hung it way up as high in a tree, and the whole stack was eaten except for that one with what looks like a bite mark out of it. That was the only one that was left.
So she had the sighting. There were 3 of them. She had the sighting.
I
like that. I like when more than one person, because we know sometimes, but when you have 3 people seeing the same thing, then you have to kind of like think about that. Right. We're going to be taking a commercial break here. When we come back, we're going to have the phone lines open. If you have any questions for Billy about Bigfoot, if you have a Bigfoot tale, maybe you had a sighting here in Virginia and you've never really wanted to tell anybody for whatever reason, this may be a good opportunity for you to give us a call. So we'll be taking your calls when we come back on Inside the Paranormal with our guest, Billy Willard.
It's time for Tarzan and I to trade in the vine for something more functional and affordable. I trust you have suitable means, Mr. Nelson.
Well, but Tarzan like Vine.
Vine, here at GR Chevrolet, we can put you in this brand new Silverado 4-wheel drive. At GR Chevrolet, you can buy this brand new Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive. Ranks #1 in government safety ratings. Here at GR Chevrolet, we make buying cars fun. Tarzan the Musical, April 21st through May 1st.
When news is happening, you want to stop and call us at 656-NEWS. That's 656-6397.
Learn the answer to this question and many more as we study the book of Revelation starting March the 9th at the Church of Christ at 823 Starling Avenue.
Sun's out, rain's gone, time to get your car washed. Come by any of the Nelson dealerships, get your oil changed for $29.95, and get you a free car wash. Come see us. The sun's shining.
Summertime's here and you're going to do a lot of traveling, you need the Auto Tech check. Don't let your brakes have you coming to a stop. You need the Auto Tech check. Don't let your belt have you broken down at the beach. Get the Auto Tech check. Don't let a bad tire ruin your vacation. Get the Auto Tech check. Don't let some strange noise cause you to break down on your trip. Get the Auto Tech check. Why should you come to Auto Tech? For our service, knowledge, and special hour warranty. 5 years, 60,000 miles. Come see us at Auto Tech. Don't settle for any check. You need the Auto Tech check.
Hello, I'm attorney Phil Gardner. If you or a member of your family has been in a car wreck or other personal injury type event, you already know what an absolute hassle it is. let us take care of it for you. We'll do it all. We know what to do.
It's time for Tarzan and I to trade in the vine for something more functional and affordable. I trust you have suitable means, Mr. Nelson.
Well, but Tarzan like Vine. Vine, here at GR Chevrolet, we can put you in this brand new Silverado 4-wheel drive. At GR Chevrolet, you can buy this green, brand new Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive. Ranks #1 in government safety ratings. Here at GR Chevrolet, we make buying cars fun. Tarzan the Musical, April 21st through May 1st.
Tune in on Monday nights at 8 p.m. right here to see Inside the Paranormal Virginia with your host, that's me, John Salas. We're going to have fun. We're back with Billy Willard, Bigfoot researcher. We're going to take some phone calls right now. You're on the line.
Yes, sir.
What's your question?
Oh, I wanted to ask about Chesapeake Bay, Chelsea.
About Chessie? That's one thing I've never researched is Chessie. I've got a friend by the name of Bruce up in Boston, Massachusetts that's done a lot of research on lake monsters. He would definitely be the one to ask, but unfortunately I don't have him with me today.
Yeah, this show's about Bigfoot. Sorry. Do you have any other questions about Bigfoot?
No, that's all I wanted to ask.
Hey, thanks for calling in. Okay, the lines are open for anybody who wants to ask any questions about Bigfoot, but while we're waiting for somebody to call in, we're going to go back and look at some of the photos, some of the pictures that Billy brought, and here we go. Here's another one. Now,
Yeah.
that's a good picture.
And that's a good, see, again, you have that rare time when you have this perfect soil under perfect conditions where you get a nice footprint. This is near the same area, the research area that we had the expedition on, and several of these prints were found. Unfortunately, I believe they're human footprints, simply because there's a lot of indications in that print that is a human foot.
So this isn't a picture of a Bigfoot.
We don't believe so.
Or it could be a picture of a human foot that's big.
The guy had a big foot, whoever he was.
Yeah, whoever it was.
But Dr. Meldrum has actually looked at the casts on this, and he does believe that it's just a large, it's a large person.
Now, how many Bigfoot casts are there? Thousands of them?
There's many. Dr. Meldrum's got so many casts in his collection that and a lot of them he can rule out pretty quickly. But he's got a lot of them that he believes are authentic. Again, same research site. Something had been walking across this small stream area right after a rain, and of course we casted those prints. Again, a lot of these prints though they're just not conclusive. They're not good enough to really prove anything.
Now there's some hair samples that have been found that I know that the scientists and the people that studied the hair samples have not been able to determine where they came from, right?
Correct. There have been some analysis done on certain hair samples. A lot of times they usually will come back as a primate, or an unknown species.
Wow. We have some more photos we could show. Get back to some of the evidence. Okay.
Now this is the actual research area. You see the pond there. That is where the witness. It was her husband, and their granddaughter. What they were doing was they were collecting foxhounds. They have foxhounds, and they were trying to track them all. They have the collars.
Right.
And it was still enough light, but it was starting to get dusk. And on the top of that hill is where they saw the creature go from the left side of that screen down to the right, down where the pond channels down there at the point on the right side of the screen. So that's where she saw it. The interesting thing about this sighting was the granddaughter. We had talked to the grandmother, and then we took the granddaughter and talked to her, and it was really funny. She described it as looking like an NFL player on the top, but a basketball player on the bottom.
So wide shoulders and small body.
Exactly.
We have a caller. You're inside the paranormal. You're on the phone. Go ahead.
Yes, John and Billy. I heard something over the internet about a Bigfoot convention. I might not be saying that right, a Bigfoot convention in Virginia. Could you tell me more about that?
Actually, we're going to be talking about that at the last few minutes of the show. That is a conference that we're putting on. So I will give you some information towards the end of the show about how to obtain tickets and things and where it's going to be located. So I'll definitely get to that.
Yeah, we'll put that information up. We're going to be talking about that.
Can I ask Billy one more question, please?
Sure.
Sure.
Are there any people that research Bigfoot in Henry County or local area that you know of?
In Henry County, I'm not aware of any. I don't have any investigators in Henry County. I've got some investigators down towards the southwestern part of Virginia, if you know where the Hillsville area is at.
Okay.
So I've got several investigators spread out there, and I have some more up towards the central part of Virginia, like around Stanton and in that area.
Okay, thank you, fellas. I'm really enjoying the show.
All right,
thanks a lot. Thanks for calling in. You know, the awareness of Bigfoot has really exploded with the TV show. I think there's always been an interest in Bigfoot. I remember back in the 70s, you know, with the movies, and everybody's had an interest. But it just seems recently, in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, there's been an explosion. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of it is awareness. As everyone knows, there's the show Finding Bigfoot that comes on the Animal Planet. You've got Mountain Monsters that comes on the Destination America channel. So there's a lot more people watching these shows and getting interested in it, and I think that's what's really bringing up the awareness.
What do you think about those? I've seen that the one on I guess was it the Travel Channel. Yeah. I've watched it a few times. What do you think about their techniques as far as their investigative techniques?
I don't agree with their techniques. It's just simply because when you go out in the woods and you start yelling and these vocalizations out into the woods.
So you guys don't do that, right?
No. We don't do that. You know, who's to say what you're doing? I mean, is that really calling in one of these creatures? It's just too many unknowns.
Really, yeah.
You know, so we're more stealthy. We'll go out and we'll do investigations. And we'll set several people in pairs in the woods and in areas, and everyone just sits there and listens. We have audio recording devices, night vision equipment, thermal equipment, and we just sit there very stealthy and just.
I imagine it's a lot like like the paranormal investigations. At times, it probably could be boring.
Oh, it's very, very boring.
Until you get that one time
right.
when you either smell, hear, whatever, and then it makes it all worthwhile. I just know that in the paranormal, so it must be the same thing for what you do with the Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It can be very boring at times, and then you'll have that rare occurrence where you'll have something exciting happen, and then that just makes it all start all over again.
How often do you guys go out?
Typically, we used to go out every weekend. We would meet up. Here lately, with me starting a new business back in 2009, that slowed me down a lot.
Right.
But the majority of my researchers that are in the group go out quite often.
Does it make a difference what time of year you go out? I mean, does it?
Well, not really. And the only reason I say that, the only reason I believe that sightings seem to go up in the fall and in the spring is simply because that's when people are getting out. You know, when springtime comes along, you'll get a rash of sightings. And I think that's because people have been closed up all winter and they want to go out and go hiking.
I would think the wintertime after a snowfall would be a great time to maybe find tracks.
It's a good time to find tracks, right. You know. But then again, you have to think, are they like us? They don't want to walk around out in that cold snow. You have to think about it.
I mean, I know that other animals' tracks are easy to find, so I think that would be a real good time. Do we have a couple more some pictures that we could show up there, Brian? There you go.
Yeah, that's just that's to give you an idea of where the creature was first seen. Where that picture was taken is the top of the hill where I'm standing and taking that picture, and the truck was on the other side of the pond there when they had the sighting of the creature.
And this was the three people, and this was the lady that put up the food?
That's correct, yes.
And now you said he didn't eat the food, or he did?
He did. He ate everything in the package except for the one.
And it was high enough. Was it high enough up so that it couldn't be another critter.
It was
Had to be a tall.
It was 8 feet up in the tree.
Wow, that's impressive. Did she say she was scared?
You know, she was a little unmoved by it. Her husband, you know, he hunts this property, and her husband, you know, it's like, you know, I've been walking around here in the dark, you know, and hearing things what sounds like it's paralleling me in the woods. He says, and now this makes him think, you know, what was that he would hear? So I don't think he walks around too much in the dark.
Yeah, right. You know, just like I said earlier, that, you know, there have been Native Americans that have said that they've been very helpful and they've been friendly, and then there's been some occurrences or accounts that it's been kind of you know, brutal.
Yeah.
You know, the one account that I did read about from a Native American was that it was written around 1970, and it was from an older Native American. At the time, he was in his 70s, and he said that his father, you know, had an experience with several, and this was probably in maybe 1910, had an experience. But he said a lot of the Native Americans kind of looked at it as a combination of a physical being and a spiritual being, that it could actually change forms, and that it had different properties than normal physical properties, and that they were afraid to even talk about it much. And he said that one of the older men in the tribe, in the community, was taken out, beaten severely. They took him to the hospital. He eventually died. They got together. He said that his father got together with 3 or 4 other guys with guns. They went out because they kind of knew where this creature hid out. They killed the creature. And to them, it was almost like killing a human being. So they didn't really talk about it. They buried it, and they just kept it really hush-hush. Right. And he said that stayed with him all his life. He said that a lot of the Caucasian or white people would automatically want to call the news and the press and make a big deal about it. But he said that the Native Americans were really tight-lipped about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to get any of them to really talk about some things.
Now, you've been up to the Northwest, right?
Yes.
And you've done some Sasquatch hunting up there.
Yes.
How was it?
We love it. The Pacific Northwest is a beautiful place. If anyone's ever been there, I highly recommend it.
Okay, and Canada actually has a lot of sightings, probably more than the United States, right?
Yeah, there's a lot in Canada.
A lot of sightings.
Yeah.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left. Billy's going to talk about the Bigfoot conference that's going to be held right here in Virginia.
Yes, that's correct. So coming up August 26th and 27th of this year, 2016, in Marion, Virginia, at Hungry Mother State Park, we're going to have the first Virginia Bigfoot Conference. We've got some great speakers lined up. Mr. Bill Dranginis, who is one of the technical gurus of Bigfoot research here in Virginia. We're going to have him. We're also going to have Russell Easterbrooks, which is a local here in southwestern Virginia, will be there. We've got Joe Gasandi, who just recently wrote a book called Monster Track, which he wrote about several different expeditions he went on around the U.S. We also have Dr. David Floyd coming up from South Carolina, who has a lot of interesting research he's done on Bigfoot. And then, of course, we have Larry Batson. A lot of people know Larry, the animal guy Batson. He used to be on the Johnny Carson show, the Tonight Show, a lot of times, and brought the wildlife on to Johnny Carson. And he's got a lot of knowledge about this. So if anyone wants to learn more about the conference, the best way to do that is to go to the Virginia, which is VA, BigfootConference.com. That's VA for Virginia, BigfootConference.com. You can get there. You can find how to buy the tickets. We've got lodging recommendations and everything you want to know about the conference on that website.
Well, Billy, this has been a great show. I've learned a lot about Bigfoot. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Before we go off, though, I have a couple of things I'd like to say. I want to say thank you to all my supporters, to everybody who's been watching the show, all of my friends at Carillion, all of my friends all over the country for watching the show. Thank you so much. A special hello to a nice little friend of mine. Her name is Skylar, and her mother Pam and Randy. Thanks for watching. This is Inside the Paranormal Virginia. Next week, we have another guest that I think you're really going to like, Tracy Lockwood. She is a medium psychic from Roanoke, and I think it's going to be a good show. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to watch next week, next Monday night, 8 o'clock, Inside the Paranormal Virginia. I'm your host, John Salas. Have a good night, and have a good week.
Inside the Paranormal Virginia.